What if I told you that everything you think you know about transformation is wrong? What if the secret to completely changing your life isn't working 12 hours a day, isn't some massive overhaul of everything you do, and isn't requiring you to become a completely different person overnight? What if the real secret, the one that the most successful people in the world use but never talk about, is something so simple that most people dismiss it as too easy to work? 1 hour, 60 minutes. That's it. That's the difference between the life you're living right now and the life you've always dreamed of having. But here's the catch, and this is crucial. It's not just any hour. It's not scrolling through social media for an hour. It's not watching Netflix for an hour. It's not even working harder at your current job for an hour. It's one specific, intentional, strategically designed hour that compounds over time to create results so dramatic that people will think you've discovered some secret that the rest of the world doesn't know about. By the time you finish this audiobook, you will understand exactly how to design that hour, how to protect it, how to maximize it, and most importantly, how to make it so automatic that missing it feels impossible. You're not just going to learn about time management or productivity hacks. You're going to discover a systematic approach to personal transformation that works whether you're 25 or 65, whether you're starting from zero or trying to break through to the next level. The people who change their lives aren't the ones who try to change everything at once. They're the ones who understand that consistent, focused action in small doses creates exponential results over time. And that journey starts right now, with understanding why 1 hour has the power to change everything. Chapter 1. The Mathematics of Transformation. Let me start with a story that will change how you think about time forever. There was a man named James who worked a demanding corporate job, had a family, and felt completely stuck. He looked at successful people and thought they must have some secret, some advantage he didn't have. Then he discovered something that changed everything. He realized that the most successful people he knew weren't working 24 hours a day. They weren't superhuman. They had simply mastered the art of the intentional hour. Here's what James discovered, and what most people never realize. The difference between extraordinary success and mediocrity isn't measured in years or months. It's measured in hours. Specifically, it's measured in how you use 1 hour per day consistently over time. When you understand the mathematics of this transformation, everything changes. Let's break down the numbers, because they are absolutely mind-blowing. If you dedicate 1 focused hour per day to personal development, skill building, or working toward a specific goal, that's 7 hours per week. That's 30 hours per month. That's 365 hours per year. Do you realize what 365 hours of focused effort can accomplish? That's more than 9 weeks of full-time work dedicated solely to becoming better at something specific. But here's where it gets really interesting. Most people think linearly. They think that if they put in 1 hour, they get 1 hour of results. But transformation doesn't work that way. Transformation compounds. Each hour builds on the previous hour. Each day of consistent action makes the next day more effective. Each week of progress creates momentum that makes the following week exponentially more powerful. Let's say you decide to dedicate 1 hour per day to learning a high-value skill. In month 1, you're a beginner. You're learning the basics, making mistakes, feeling clumsy. But you're building the foundation. In month 2, those basics start clicking. You begin to see patterns. You make fewer mistakes. In month 3, you start seeing real improvement. By month 6, people begin to notice. By month 12, you're operating at a level that most people never reach because they never committed to the consistent hour. But the real magic happens in year 2. Now you're not just learning, you're innovating. You're combining what you've learned in unique ways. You're solving problems that beginners can't even see. You're creating value that commands attention, respect, and often significantly more money. This is the compound effect of the daily hour, and it's available to anyone willing to commit to the process. Consider the alternative. Most people spend their free time randomly. They might watch television for 2 hours one day, scroll social media for an hour the next day, play video games for 3 hours on the weekend. At the end of the year, they've spent hundreds of hours consuming content, but they have nothing to show for it. No new skills, no progress toward meaningful goals, no transformation. They're essentially the same person they were 12 months ago, just 1 year older. The person who commits to the daily hour is living in a completely different reality. While others are consuming, they're creating. While others are being entertained, they're building expertise. While others are staying the same, they're evolving into someone completely new. And the gap between these two approaches gets wider every single day. But here's what most people miss. The hour isn't just about the skill you're building or the goal you're pursuing. The hour is rewiring your brain for success. Every day that you choose productive action over passive consumption, you're strengthening your discipline muscle. Every day that you prioritize long-term growth over immediate gratification, you're training yourself to think like a successful person. Every day that you commit to the hour, regardless of how you feel, you're proving to yourself that you're the type of person who follows through on commitments. This is why the daily hour changes everything. It's not just about what you accomplish during those 60 minutes. It's about who you become as a result of protecting and maximizing those 60 minutes every single day. You become someone who values growth over comfort. You become someone who understands delayed gratification. You become someone who builds rather than just consumes. And once you become that person, success in every area of your life becomes inevitable. Chapter 2. Why most people fail before they start. Before we dive into how to design your transformational hour, we need to address the elephant in the room. Most people who hear about this concept will never even try it. And of those who do try it, most will quit within the first week. This isn't because the concept doesn't work. It's because they fall into predictable traps that sabotage them before they even give themselves a real chance to succeed. The first trap is what I call the all-or-nothing mentality. These people hear about dedicating 1 hour per day and immediately think they need to do more. They tell themselves that 1 hour isn't enough. So they plan to dedicate 2 hours or 3 hours, or they create some elaborate routine that requires them to wake up at 5 in the morning and completely restructure their entire life. Within a few days, this becomes unsustainable. They miss a day, feel like they've failed, and quit entirely. Here's the truth that high achievers understand, but most people miss. Consistency beats intensity every single time. It's better to do something small consistently than to do something big inconsistently. The person who dedicates 30 minutes per day for a year will accomplish dramatically more than the person who dedicates 3 hours per day for a month. and then burns out. The daily hour works precisely because it's sustainable. It's significant enough to create real progress, but manageable enough to maintain even when life gets chaotic. The second trap is the perfect conditions fallacy. These people convince themselves that they need to wait until they have the perfect setup, the perfect schedule, the perfect environment before they can start. They tell themselves they'll begin their daily hour when they get a home office, or when their schedule calms down, or when they finish this current project, or when the kids go back to school. Meanwhile, months pass. Conditions never become perfect, and they never start. Successful people understand that perfect conditions don't exist. They start with whatever conditions they have and improve them along the way. They might begin their daily hour sitting at their kitchen table at 6 in the morning before anyone else wakes up. They might use their lunch break at work. They might dedicate the hour after dinner instead of watching television. They don't wait for perfect. They start with possible and make it better over time. The third trap is the motivation dependency mistake. These people start strong when they're feeling motivated and inspired. They attack their daily hour with enthusiasm for the first few days or weeks. But then life happens. They have a bad day at work. They don't sleep well. They're dealing with stress. And suddenly, they don't feel motivated anymore. Since they've built their entire approach around feeling motivated, they skip the hour. One skip becomes two becomes a week, and soon they've abandoned the practice entirely. The most successful people understand that motivation is unreliable. They don't depend on feeling motivated to take action. Instead, they create systems and structures that make the daily hour happen regardless of how they feel. They schedule it like an important meeting. They prepare everything in advance. They remove as many decisions and obstacles as possible. They understand that discipline, not motivation, is what creates lasting change. The fourth trap is the immediate results expectation. These people start their daily hour expecting to see dramatic changes within the first week or two. When they don't see immediate, obvious progress, they conclude that the approach isn't working and abandon it. They don't understand that transformation is often invisible in the early stages. Just like a plant growing underground before it breaks through the soil, the most important changes are happening beneath the surface long before they become visible. Real transformation follows a pattern that looks like this. For the first month, progress feels slow and almost imperceptible. You might even question whether anything is happening. In the second month, you start to notice small improvements. By the third month, others begin to notice changes. By the sixth month, the progress becomes undeniable. By the 12th month, you've transformed into someone almost unrecognizable from where you started. But you only get to month 12 if you persist through months 1, 2, and 3 when progress feels slow. The fifth and final trap is the no clear focus problem. These people decide to dedicate an hour per day to self-improvement or getting better without defining what that actually means. They spend 15 minutes reading, 20 minutes watching motivational videos, 10 minutes planning their goals, and 15 minutes working on a skill. At the end of the hour, they've been busy, but they haven't made meaningful progress toward anything specific. The daily hour only transforms your life when it's focused on specific, clearly defined outcomes. You need to know exactly what you're trying to accomplish, exactly how you're going to measure progress, and exactly what actions you're going to take during that hour. Vague intentions create vague results. Specific intentions create specific results, and specific results, compounded over time, create transformation. Understanding these traps is crucial because awareness is the first step to avoiding them. When you start your daily hour practice, you'll be tempted by every one of these traps. You'll want to do more than 1 hour. You'll want to wait for better conditions. You'll skip days when you don't feel motivated. You'll expect immediate results. You'll be tempted to work on multiple things at once. Knowing that these temptations are coming gives you the power to resist them and stay committed to the process that actually creates lasting change. Chapter 3. The Anatomy of a Perfect Hour. Not all hours are created equal. You could spend an hour scrolling through social media, and at the end of that hour, you'd be exactly the same person you were when you started, possibly even worse off, because you've trained your brain to crave distraction and instant gratification. But you could also spend an hour in such a focused, intentional way that it literally moves you closer to becoming the person you want to be. The difference isn't the amount of time. It's how that time is structured and used. The perfect transformational hour has 4 distinct phases, and understanding each phase is crucial to maximizing your results. These phases are preparation, activation, execution, and integration. Master these 4 phases, and your daily hour becomes a powerful engine for personal transformation. The preparation phase takes the first 5 to 10 minutes of your hour, and this is where most people make their first mistake. They dive straight into action without properly preparing their mind and environment for deep, focused work. This is like trying to drive a car without warming up the engine. It might work, but you're not going to get optimal performance, and you're going to create unnecessary stress on the system. During the preparation phase, you're doing 3 critical things. First, you're eliminating distractions. This means your phone is in another room or in airplane mode. Your computer notifications are turned off. Your door is closed. You've told the people around you that you're not to be interrupted unless there's an emergency. You've created a bubble of focus that protects your hour from the chaos of the outside world. Second, you're clarifying your intention for this specific hour. What exactly are you going to accomplish in the next 60 minutes? What does success look like at the end of this session? You might write this down, or you might simply state it clearly in your mind. But you need to know precisely what you're trying to achieve. This isn't the time for vague goals like work on my business or improve my health. This is the time for specific outcomes like write 1,500 words for Chapter 3, or complete the online course module on financial planning. Third, you're getting your mind and body into the optimal state for focused work. This might involve a few minutes of deep breathing to center yourself. It might involve reviewing your bigger goals to remind yourself why this hour matters. It might involve some light stretching or movement to get your blood flowing. The specific activities aren't as important as the intention. You're transitioning from the scattered, reactive mindset of daily life into the focused, proactive mindset of someone committed to growth. The activation phase is the next 10 to 15 minutes, and this is where you build momentum. Many people struggle with this phase because they try to jump immediately into the most challenging or important work. But your brain needs time to warm up, just like your muscles need time to warm up before intense exercise. The activation phase is where you ease into focused work with tasks that are important but not overwhelming. During activation, You might review what you accomplished in your previous session and what you plan to accomplish today. You might organize your materials or workspace. You might start with a relatively simple task that's related to your main objective, but doesn't require your deepest concentration. The goal is to build confidence and momentum while your brain shifts into focused mode. This phase is also where you deal with what I call mental resistance. Almost everyone experiences some form of internal resistance when they're about to do important work. Your brain might try to convince you that you need to check your email first, or that you should start tomorrow when you'll be more prepared, or that this particular task isn't really that important. This resistance is normal and predictable. The activation phase gives you time to acknowledge these thoughts without being controlled by them. The execution phase is the heart of your hour, typically lasting 30 to 40 minutes. This is where the real transformation happens. During this phase, you're engaged in deep, focused work on your most important objective. You're not multitasking. You're not checking messages. You're not allowing your mind to wander to other projects or responsibilities. You're completely absorbed in the task at hand. The key to maximizing the execution phase is what psychologists call flow state. Flow is a mental state where you're completely immersed in an activity, where time seems to disappear, where you're performing at your peak level without conscious effort. When you're in flow, you accomplish more in 30 minutes than most people accomplish in 3 hours of distracted work. Creating flow requires 3 conditions. First, the task must be challenging enough to engage your full attention, but not so difficult that it creates anxiety. Second, you must have clear goals and immediate feedback about your progress. Third, you must eliminate all distractions and interruptions. When these 3 conditions are met, flow becomes possible, and your execution phase becomes exponentially more effective. During execution, you're also practicing what I call progressive overload for the mind. Just like muscles grow stronger when they're progressively challenged with heavier weights, your mental capacity grows stronger when it's progressively challenged with deeper focus and more complex tasks. Each day that you successfully complete a focused execution phase, you're increasing your ability to focus for longer periods and tackle more challenging work. The integration phase is the final 5 to 10 minutes of your hour, and this is where you consolidate the progress you've made. Most people skip this phase entirely, moving directly from focused work back into the chaos of their day. This is a massive missed opportunity because the integration phase is where learning becomes permanent and progress becomes memorable. During integration, you're doing 3 things. First, you're reviewing what you accomplished during the execution phase. What worked well? What was challenging? What did you learn? This review process helps your brain process and retain the information and skills you've been working on. Second, you're planning your next session. What will you work on tomorrow? What materials do you need to prepare? What specific outcome are you targeting? This planning ensures that your next hour starts with clarity and intention rather than confusion and wasted time. Third, you're acknowledging your commitment to the process. You've just invested an hour in becoming better, and that deserves recognition. This isn't about ego or self-congratulation. It's about reinforcing the neural pathways that associate focused work with positive feelings. The more your brain connects the daily hour with feelings of accomplishment and progress, the easier it becomes to maintain the habit. When you structure your hour with these 4 phases, something magical happens. The hour stops feeling like work and starts feeling like an investment. You begin to crave the focused time rather than resist it. You start to see clear progress rather than wondering if you're making any difference. And most importantly, you develop the kind of deep focus and systematic approach to improvement that separates high achievers from everyone else. Chapter 4. Choosing your life. Changing focus. The most successful people in the world are not the ones who try to improve everything at once. They are the ones who identify the single most important area for improvement and focus on it with obsessive intensity until they achieve breakthrough results. This principle is absolutely critical when it comes to designing your transformational hour. The temptation will be to work on multiple goals, to diversify your efforts, to hedge your bets. But this approach, while it feels safer, is actually the enemy of real transformation. Think about it this way. If you have 1 hour per day and you split it between learning a new language, building a business, getting in shape, improving your relationships, and developing a new skill, you're really only dedicating 12 minutes per day to each area. 12 minutes per day, even done consistently for a year, is not enough to create breakthrough results in any area. You'll make incremental progress in multiple areas, but you won't experience the kind of dramatic transformation that changes your life. But if you take that same hour and focus it entirely on one area for an extended period of time, the results become exponential. 1 hour per day dedicated to building a business for a year can literally create a 6-figure income. 1 hour per day dedicated to learning a high-value skill can make you one of the most competent people in your field. 1 hour per day dedicated to health and fitness can completely transform your body and energy levels. The key is choosing one focus and committing to it completely. So, how do you choose the right focus? This is one of the most important decisions you'll make, because it determines whether your daily hour creates life-changing results or just modest improvements. The wrong choice can waste months or even years of consistent effort. The right choice can accelerate your entire life trajectory. The first filter for choosing your focus is impact. You want to identify the area where improvement will have the greatest positive effect on every other area of your life. For most people, this falls into one of 4 categories: health and energy, financial skills and earning ability, relationships and communication skills, or mindset and emotional management. Health and energy affects everything else. When you have abundant physical energy, you perform better at work. You're more patient with your family. You think more clearly, and you're more resilient in the face of challenges. Many people underestimate how much their lack of energy is holding them back in every area of their life. If you're constantly tired, if you don't feel strong and vital, if you're dealing with health issues that could be improved through lifestyle changes, focusing your hour on health and fitness might be the lever that transforms everything else. Financial skills and earning ability provide options and reduce stress. Money isn't everything, but financial stress affects your relationships, your health, your peace of mind, and your ability to pursue your dreams. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, if you're not building wealth for the future, if you're in a career that doesn't fulfill you financially, focusing your hour on developing skills that increase your earning ability might be the most logical choice. Relationships and communication skills affect your success in every context. Whether you're trying to advance in your career, build a business, maintain a marriage, or raise children. Your ability to communicate effectively and build strong relationships is fundamental. If you struggle with conflict, if you have trouble connecting with people, if you want to become more influential and persuasive, focusing your hour on developing these skills could transform every area of your life. Mindset and emotional management is the foundation everything else is built on. Your beliefs about what's possible, your ability to manage stress and negative emotions, your resilience in the face of setbacks, your confidence in pursuing challenging goals. These mental and emotional skills determine what you're willing to attempt and how likely you are to succeed. If you struggle with limiting beliefs, anxiety, lack of confidence, or emotional reactivity, focusing your hour on developing mental and emotional strength might be the most foundational choice. The second filter for choosing your focus is passion and natural ability. While impact is important, you also need to consider what you're naturally drawn to and what you have the potential to become truly excellent at. The most successful people are not just working in important areas. They're working in areas where they can develop a genuine competitive advantage. Ask yourself, what activities energize you rather than drain you? What subjects do you find yourself reading about and thinking about, even when you don't have to? What skills do other people frequently compliment you on? What achievements in your past make you feel most proud? These questions can help you identify areas where you have both natural interest and natural ability. The third filter is opportunity and timing. Some opportunities are time-sensitive. Some skills become more or less valuable depending on changes in technology, economics, or culture. Some personal goals become more or less important depending on your life stage and circumstances. For example, if you're in your 20s, focusing on developing skills that increase your earning potential might be more valuable than if you're in your 60s and already financially secure. If you're in an industry that's rapidly changing, focusing on developing new technical skills might be more urgent than focusing on fitness. If you're going through a major life transition, focusing on emotional resilience and mindset might be more important than focusing on business skills. The fourth and final filter is measurability. You need to be able to track your progress clearly and objectively. Goals like become more confident or improve my relationships are too vague to focus a daily hour around. But goals like complete a public speaking course and deliver 10 presentations or have weekly one-on-one conversations with each of my team members for 6 months are specific enough to create a clear daily practice. When you're applying these filters, be honest with yourself about what you really want, not what you think you should want. Don't choose to focus on fitness because you think that's what successful people do, if what you really care about is building a business. Don't choose to focus on making more money if what you really need is better relationships. The daily hour only works when you're genuinely committed to the outcome. And you can only be genuinely committed to outcomes that matter to you personally. Once you've identified your focus, you need to define it specifically enough to guide your daily actions. Instead of improve my health, your focus might be lose 30 pounds and complete a half marathon. Instead of build a business, your focus might be launch a consulting practice and acquire 5 regular clients. Instead of become a better leader, your focus might be complete a leadership development program and implement monthly team-building initiatives. The more specific your focus, the easier it becomes to design daily actions that move you toward your goal. And the clearer your daily actions, the more likely you are to see consistent progress that motivates you to continue. This is how you turn 1 hour per day into the most powerful hour of transformation in your life. Chapter 5. Building an unbreakable system. Having a clear focus for your daily hour is essential, but focus alone isn't enough. You also need a system that makes the daily hour automatic, inevitable, and resistant to the chaos and unpredictability of daily life. The most successful people don't rely on motivation or willpower to maintain their transformational habits. They create systems that make success the default outcome and failure the exception. The first element of an unbreakable system is what I call environmental design. This means structuring your physical environment in a way that makes the daily hour easier to start and harder to avoid. Most people underestimate how much their environment influences their behavior. They try to use willpower to overcome environmental obstacles, and willpower always loses in the long run. Environmental design starts with creating a dedicated space for your daily hour. This doesn't mean you need a home office or a special room. It means you need a specific location that becomes associated in your mind with focused work. This might be a particular corner of your bedroom, a specific spot at your kitchen table, or a regular desk at your local library. The key is consistency. When you always do your daily hour in the same place, your brain begins to associate that location with focused work, making it easier to get into the right mindset. Next, you need to eliminate friction and obstacles. Friction is anything that makes it harder to start your daily hour. If you're working on writing, friction might be having to search for a pen and paper every day, or having to clear clutter off your desk before you can start. If you're working on fitness, friction might be having to search for your workout clothes, or having to move furniture to create space for exercise. The goal is to reduce the number of decisions and actions required to begin your daily hour. Successful people prepare everything in advance. They set out their materials the night before. They clear their workspace. They eliminate any step that could become a reason to procrastinate or give up. The easier it is to start, the more likely you are to start consistently. You also need to eliminate temptations and distractions from your environment. This means your phone is not visible during your daily hour. Your computer notifications are turned off. The television is not in the same room. Any books, magazines, or other materials that might capture your attention are put away. Creating a distraction-free environment isn't just about avoiding interruptions. It's about training your brain to associate your dedicated space with deep focus. The second element of an unbreakable system is what I call temporal architecture. This means designing the timing and structure of your daily hour in a way that fits naturally into your existing life and becomes a non-negotiable part of your routine. Most people make the mistake of trying to find time for their daily hour. They look at their schedule and try to squeeze the hour into whatever gaps are available. This approach sets you up for failure because gaps in your schedule are unpredictable and often disappear when life gets busy. Instead of finding time, you need to create time by making the daily hour a fixed appointment with yourself. The best time for most people is early in the morning, before the demands and distractions of the day begin. When you do your daily hour first thing in the morning, you guarantee that it happens regardless of what chaos emerges later in the day. You also benefit from having your highest mental energy and willpower available for your most important work. But early morning doesn't work for everyone, and that's okay. The key is consistency, not timing. If you're naturally a night person, your daily hour might be more effective in the evening. If you have young children who wake up early, your daily hour might need to happen during lunch break or after they go to bed. The important thing is to choose a time that you can protect consistently and then treat that time as sacred. You also need to create what I call activation rituals that signal to your brain that it's time for focused work. These are specific actions you take immediately before your daily hour that put you into the right mental state. Your activation ritual might be making a cup of coffee, doing 5 minutes of meditation, reviewing your goals, or listening to a particular song. The specific activities matter less than the consistency. When you do the same things in the same order before every daily hour, your brain learns to associate these actions with deep focus. The third element of an unbreakable system is accountability architecture. This means creating external structures that make it harder to skip your daily hour and easier to stay consistent. Self-accountability is important, but external accountability is more powerful because it involves other people and often has social or financial consequences. One form of accountability is public commitment. When you tell other people about your daily hour goal, you create social pressure to follow through. This might mean announcing your goal on social media, telling your family and friends, or joining a group of people working towards similar goals. The knowledge that other people are watching and expecting you to succeed creates additional motivation to maintain consistency. Another form of accountability is finding an accountability partner. This is someone who is also working on personal development goals and who agrees to check in with you regularly about your progress. You might text each other every day to confirm that you completed your daily hour, have weekly calls to discuss challenges and successes, or meet regularly to work on your goals together. Financial accountability can also be powerful. This might mean investing money in coaching, courses, or materials related to your goal, creating a financial incentive to follow through. Or it might mean setting up a system where you donate money to a cause you disagree with every time you skip your daily hour, creating a financial penalty for inconsistency. The fourth element of an unbreakable system is progress tracking. You need a simple, clear way to measure and record your daily consistency and your progress toward your larger goal. What gets measured gets managed, and what gets recorded gets repeated. Your tracking system should capture two types of information: process metrics and outcome metrics. Process metrics measure whether you're following your system consistently. The most important process metric is simply whether you completed your daily hour. Outcome metrics measure whether your daily hour is creating the results you want. These might include skills developed, projects completed, milestones reached, or measurable improvements in your target area. The key is to keep your tracking system simple enough that it doesn't become a burden. This might be as simple as marking an X on a calendar every day you complete your hour, or it might involve a more detailed journal where you record what you worked on and what you accomplished. The important thing is consistency. Track your progress every day without exception, and review your progress regularly to identify patterns and make adjustments. The final element of an unbreakable system is adaptive resilience. This means building flexibility into your system so that it can survive the inevitable disruptions, setbacks, and changes that life brings. Rigid systems break under pressure. Adaptive systems bend but don't break. Adaptive resilience starts with having backup plans. What will you do if your regular time for the daily hour gets disrupted? What will you do if your regular location isn't available? What will you do if you're traveling, sick, or dealing with a family emergency? Having predetermined responses to these situations means you can maintain consistency even when circumstances are challenging. It also means having a minimum viable dose version of your daily hour. On days when you can't do the full hour, what's the minimum you can do to maintain the habit? This might be 15 minutes, or it might be 5 minutes of reading related to your goal. The specific amount matters less than maintaining the daily rhythm. It's better to do something small every day than to do something big inconsistently. When you combine environmental design, temporal architecture, accountability structures, progress tracking, and adaptive resilience, you create a system that makes the daily hour virtually inevitable. This system removes the need for constant motivation and willpower, making your transformation automatic rather than effortful. And when your transformation becomes automatic, extraordinary results become inevitable. Chapter 6. Overcoming the resistance that kills dreams. Every single person who attempts to transform their life through the daily hour will face resistance. This resistance is not a sign that you're doing something wrong. It's a sign that you're doing something important. The bigger the potential transformation, the stronger the resistance you'll encounter. Understanding this resistance and learning to work with it rather than against it is what separates those who succeed from those who give up. Resistance comes in many forms, but they all have one thing in common. They feel completely logical and justified when you're experiencing them. Your brain will give you perfectly reasonable explanations for why today isn't a good day to do your hour, why you should start fresh next week, why this particular goal isn't really that important after all. This is why most people fail. They believe the resistance instead of recognizing it for what it really is. The first type of resistance is what I call urgency hijacking. This happens when something that feels urgent crowds out your daily hour. You wake up planning to do your hour, but then you remember an email you need to send, or a call you need to make, or a problem you need to solve. These tasks feel urgent, so you tell yourself you'll do your hour after you handle them. But urgent tasks multiply. One urgent task leads to another, and before you know it, the day is over and your hour never happened. The key to overcoming urgency hijacking is understanding the difference between urgent and important. Urgent tasks demand immediate attention, but often have little impact on your long-term goals. Important tasks may not have immediate deadlines, but have massive impact on your future success. Your daily hour is always important, but it's rarely urgent, which is exactly why it gets pushed aside by less important but more urgent demands. To overcome this, you need to protect your daily hour, like you would protect a meeting with your most important client. You wouldn't reschedule a crucial business meeting because you remembered you needed to send an email. You wouldn't cancel a doctor's appointment because someone asked you to handle a small task. Your daily hour deserves the same level of protection because it's the most important meeting you have each day. The meeting with your future self. The second type of resistance is perfectionism paralysis. This happens when you convince yourself that conditions aren't quite right for your daily hour. Maybe you don't have all the materials you need. or you're not feeling motivated, or you haven't figured out the perfect plan yet. You tell yourself you'll start when everything is perfectly aligned, but perfect conditions never arrive. Perfectionism feels like high standards, but it's actually fear in disguise. It's the fear of starting something and not doing it perfectly, the fear of making mistakes, the fear of discovering that you're not as capable as you hoped. But here's what perfectionists miss. Progress beats perfection every single time. A mediocre hour of focused work is infinitely more valuable than a perfect hour that never happens. To overcome perfectionism paralysis, embrace the concept of good enough to start. You don't need perfect conditions. You need conditions that are good enough to begin. You don't need the perfect plan. You need a plan that's good enough to take the first step. You don't need to feel perfectly motivated. You need to feel motivated enough to start. Once you begin, momentum takes over, and what seemed impossible from the outside becomes manageable from the inside. The third type of resistance is comparison discouragement. This happens when you look at other people who seem to be making faster progress or achieving better results, and you conclude that your daily hour isn't working or isn't enough. You see someone who's been working on their goal for half the time you have but seems to be twice as far ahead, and you start questioning whether your approach is effective. Comparison is not only the thief of joy, it's the thief of progress. When you're constantly measuring your progress against others, you lose sight of how far you've come from your own starting point. You also don't see the full picture of other people's journeys. You see their highlight reel, not their behind-the-scenes struggles, failures, and setbacks. To overcome comparison discouragement, focus obsessively on your own progress. Measure yourself against who you were yesterday, last week, last month. Celebrate small wins and incremental improvements. Keep a record of your progress so you can see how far you've come during moments when it feels like you're not moving fast enough. Remember that transformation is not a race. It's a personal journey that unfolds at its own pace. The fourth type of resistance is motivation dependency. This is the belief that you need to feel motivated or inspired to do your daily hour. When motivation is high, you attack your hour with enthusiasm. When motivation is low, you skip it entirely. This creates an inconsistent pattern that prevents you from building real momentum. Motivation is like the weather. It's unpredictable and largely outside your control. Successful people don't wait for motivation. They create it through action. They understand that motivation often follows action rather than preceding it. When you start your daily hour, even when you don't feel like it, you often find that motivation shows up once you begin. To overcome motivation dependency, create what I call activation momentum. Commit to starting your daily hour for just 5 minutes, regardless of how you feel. Tell yourself you can stop after 5 minutes if you still don't want to continue. Most of the time, starting is the hardest part. And once you begin, you'll find it easier to continue than to stop. The final type of resistance is identity conflict. This happens when your daily hour requires you to act in ways that conflict with how you currently see yourself. If you've always thought of yourself as someone who's not good with money, focusing your daily hour on financial education creates internal conflict. If you've always seen yourself as an introvert, focusing on developing presentation skills feels uncomfortable and inauthentic. Identity is powerful because we have a deep psychological need to act consistently with how we see ourselves. When your goals require you to behave in ways that don't match your current identity, your subconscious mind will create resistance to maintain consistency with your self-image. To overcome identity conflict, start thinking of yourself as someone who's becoming rather than someone who is. Instead of, "I'm not good with money," think, "I'm becoming someone who understands finances." Instead of, "I'm not a morning person," think, "I'm becoming someone who makes good use of early morning hours." This subtle shift in language creates space for growth and change while honoring your current reality. Resistance is not your enemy. It's information. When you encounter resistance, it means you're pushing against the boundaries of your comfort zone, which is exactly where growth happens. The goal is not to eliminate resistance, but to recognize it, understand it, and continue forward despite it. Every time you act in spite of resistance, you build the psychological muscle that will serve you in every area of your life. Chapter 7. The Science of Maximum Impact. Understanding how to structure your daily hour is important, but understanding how to maximize the impact of that hour is what separates good results from extraordinary results. The most successful people don't just put in the time. They engineer their time for maximum effectiveness. They understand the science of learning, focus, and skill development, and they apply this science systematically to accelerate their progress. The first principle of maximum impact is what neuroscientists call deliberate practice. This is not the same as regular practice or repetition. Deliberate practice is focused, purposeful effort designed to improve performance in specific areas where you're currently weakest. It requires constant attention, immediate feedback, and willingness to work at the edge of your current ability. Most people practice at a level that's comfortable for them. They work on things they're already good at, avoid areas where they struggle, and mistake activity for progress. But deliberate practice is deliberately uncomfortable. It requires you to identify your specific weaknesses and attack them systematically, even when it feels awkward and frustrating. For example, if you're using your daily hour to improve your writing, deliberate practice doesn't mean writing about topics you already understand well. It means identifying specific areas where your writing is weak. Perhaps your conclusions, your transitions, or your ability to present complex ideas simply, and designing exercises specifically to improve those areas. The second principle is interleaving, which involves mixing different but related skills or concepts during your practice session, rather than focusing on just one thing. Research shows that while interleaving feels less efficient in the short term, it leads to better long-term learning and performance. If you're learning a new language, instead of spending your entire hour on vocabulary, you might spend 20 minutes on vocabulary, 20 minutes on grammar, and 20 minutes on conversation practice. If you're developing business skills, you might alternate between studying marketing concepts, working on financial planning, and practicing presentation skills within the same session. Interleaving works because it forces your brain to constantly discriminate between different concepts and contexts, strengthening the neural pathways that support understanding and recall. It also prevents the kind of mindless repetition that feels productive but doesn't actually improve performance. The third principle is spaced repetition, which involves reviewing and practicing previously learned material at increasing intervals. Most people learn something once and then move on to new material. But this approach leads to rapid forgetting. Spaced repetition ensures that important information and skills become permanently embedded in long-term memory. If you're building expertise in any field, dedicate a portion of each daily hour to reviewing and reinforcing what you've learned in previous sessions. This might mean reviewing notes from last week, practicing skills you learned last month, or revisiting concepts you studied 3 months ago. This review doesn't feel as exciting as learning new material, but it's essential for building the kind of deep, permanent knowledge that creates expertise. The fourth principle is progressive overload, borrowed from exercise science, but applicable to any kind of skill development. Just as muscles grow stronger when they're progressively challenged with heavier weights, cognitive abilities grow stronger when they're progressively challenged with more difficult tasks. This means your daily hour should become progressively more challenging over time. If you started by reading beginner-level material, you should gradually move to intermediate and then advanced material. If you started with simple projects, you should gradually take on more complex challenges. If you started with short practice sessions, you should gradually extend the duration and intensity of your work. Progressive overload requires careful calibration. The challenge needs to be significant enough to promote growth, but not so overwhelming that it creates discouragement or burnout. A good rule of thumb is to increase the difficulty by about 10% each week, whether that means reading more complex material, tackling larger projects, or extending your focus time. The fifth principle is active recall, which involves testing yourself on what you've learned, rather than simply reviewing material passively. Research consistently shows that retrieving information from memory strengthens learning much more effectively than rereading or highlighting. Instead of just reading about concepts during your daily hour, regularly test yourself on what you've learned. This might mean closing your book and writing down the key points from memory, explaining concepts out loud as if you're teaching someone else, or creating practice problems and solving them without referring to your notes. Active recall feels more difficult than passive review, and that difficulty is exactly why it's more effective. When your brain has to work to retrieve information, it strengthens the neural pathways that support that information, making it more likely to be available when you need it in real-world situations. The sixth principle is focused attention training. In our distraction-heavy world, the ability to sustain deep focus for extended periods has become a rare and valuable skill. Your daily hour is not just an opportunity to work on specific goals. It's an opportunity to train your attention like a muscle. This means treating every instance of distraction as a chance to strengthen your focus. When your mind wanders, gently bring it back to your task, without judgment. When you feel the urge to check your phone, notice the urge and choose to stay focused instead. When you encounter a difficult concept that makes you want to give up, push through the discomfort and stay engaged. Over time, this attention training carries over into every other area of your life. You become someone who can focus deeply when focus is required, who can resist distractions when distractions arise, who can persist through difficulty when persistence is needed. These meta skills are often more valuable than any specific knowledge or skill you develop during your daily hour. The seventh and final principle is Environmental optimization. Your physical environment has a massive impact on your cognitive performance. But most people never think deliberately about how to optimize their environment for learning and focus. Temperature matters. Research shows that most people perform best in environments between 68 and 72 degrees Fahrenheit. Lighting matters. Natural light is best. But if that's not available, bright, full-spectrum artificial light is better than dim or yellow light. Air quality matters. Stuffy, poorly ventilated spaces reduce cognitive performance. Even small environmental details can have significant impacts. The presence of plants has been shown to improve focus and reduce mental fatigue. Certain scents, like peppermint or rosemary, can enhance alertness and memory. Background noise can either help or hurt, depending on the type. Complete silence is ideal for complex cognitive work, while gentle ambient noise can be helpful for creative tasks. During your daily hour, experiment with different environmental conditions and pay attention to how they affect your performance. Find the combination of temperature, lighting, scent, and sound that helps you perform at your best, and then recreate those conditions as consistently as possible. When you apply these 7 principles systematically, your daily hour becomes exponentially more effective. You're not just putting in time. You're engineering that time for maximum learning, maximum skill development, and maximum progress toward your goals. This is the difference between people who work hard and people who work smart. And it's the difference between modest improvement and life-changing transformation. Chapter 8. Tracking progress and staying motivated. One of the biggest reasons people abandon their daily hour practice is that they lose sight of their progress. Human beings are wired to seek immediate feedback and quick rewards. But meaningful transformation often happens gradually, beneath the surface, in ways that aren't immediately visible. Without a system for tracking and recognizing progress, it's easy to become discouraged and conclude that your efforts aren't working. The key to staying motivated long-term is creating what I call a progress visibility system. This means developing multiple ways to measure and celebrate your advancement, both in terms of the consistency of your daily practice and the results you're achieving through that practice. When progress is visible, motivation becomes sustainable. The foundation of any progress tracking system is what I call streak tracking. This is simply recording whether you completed your daily hour each day. The goal is to build an unbroken chain of successful days, and the visual representation of this chain becomes a powerful motivator to continue. You can track your streak using a simple calendar where you mark an X for each day you complete your hour, or you can use a habit tracking app, or even a jar where you add a marble for each successful day. The specific method matters less than the consistency and visibility. You want to be able to see at a glance how many consecutive days you've maintained your practice. Streak tracking is powerful because it transforms an abstract commitment into a concrete game. Instead of just trying to do your daily hour, you're trying to keep the streak alive. This subtle psychological shift makes each day feel more important and makes the act of skipping feel more costly. But consistency tracking is only the beginning. You also need what I call capability tracking, which measures how your abilities are improving as a result of your daily practice. This requires identifying specific, measurable indicators of progress in your chosen focus area. If you're using your daily hour to improve your writing, Your capability tracking might include metrics like words written per session, time required to complete specific types of projects, or feedback scores from others who read your work. If you're focused on fitness, you might track strength gains, endurance improvements, or body composition changes. If you're building business skills, you might track income increases, project completion times, or the complexity of challenges you're able to handle. The key is to identify both leading indicators and lagging indicators. Leading indicators are things that predict future success and can be measured immediately. Things like pages read, practice sessions completed, or skills attempted. Lagging indicators are the ultimate outcomes you're trying to achieve, but which take longer to manifest. Things like income increases, weight loss, or promotion at work. Leading indicators help you stay motivated day to day because you can see immediate evidence that your efforts are accumulating. Lagging indicators help you stay motivated long term because they show that your daily efforts are creating the ultimate outcomes you desire. Another powerful tracking method is what I call before and after documentation. This involves creating a detailed record of your current situation when you begin your daily hour practice, and then regularly updating this record to show how far you've come. If you're working on public speaking skills, you might record yourself giving a presentation at the beginning of your journey and then record yourself again every month. If you're learning a musical instrument, you might record yourself playing a challenging piece at regular intervals. If you're building a business, you might document your current revenue, customer base, and daily activities. Then update these measurements regularly. Before and after documentation is especially powerful during moments of discouragement because it provides undeniable evidence of progress. When you're feeling like you're not improving fast enough, you can look back at where you started and see dramatic differences that might not be obvious from day to day. You should also implement what I call milestone celebration. This means identifying specific achievements along your journey and creating meaningful ways to acknowledge and celebrate when you reach them. Most people are good at celebrating major victories, but terrible at celebrating small wins, which means they miss most opportunities for positive reinforcement. Your milestones should be frequent enough to provide regular motivation, but significant enough to feel meaningful. If you're learning a language, milestones might include completing each level of your course, having your first conversation with a native speaker, or understanding a movie without subtitles. If you're building a business, milestones might include making your first sale, reaching your first 100 customers, or earning your first $1,000 in monthly revenue. For each milestone, create a specific celebration that feels proportional to the achievement. This might be a special meal, a small purchase you've been wanting to make, or simply taking time to reflect on and appreciate your progress. The goal is to create positive associations with the hard work of improvement so that your brain learns to crave the process, not just the outcomes. One of the most underutilized but powerful tracking methods is what I call learning documentation. This involves regularly recording not just what you accomplished during your daily hour, but what you learned, what challenges you encountered, and what insights you gained. This might take the form of a daily journal where you spend 5 minutes after each session writing about your experience. What worked well today? What was more difficult than expected? What patterns are you starting to notice? What questions arose that you want to explore further? What connections did you make between new information and things you already knew. Learning documentation serves multiple purposes. It helps consolidate the knowledge and insights from each session, making them more likely to stick in long-term memory. It provides a record you can review to identify patterns and areas for improvement, and it creates a sense of progress even on days when concrete achievements are hard to identify. Finally, you need what I call accountability reporting. This means regularly sharing your progress with someone else who cares about your success and will hold you accountable for following through on your commitments. This could be a friend, family member, mentor, coach, or online community of people working towards similar goals. The frequency and format of accountability reporting depends on your personality and circumstances, but it should happen at least weekly. You might send a weekly email to an accountability partner detailing your consistency, your progress, and your challenges. You might post updates in an online community. You might have regular phone calls with a mentor or coach. The key is to make your progress and challenges visible to someone whose opinion you value. This external accountability creates additional motivation to maintain consistency and provides support and perspective when you encounter difficulties. When you combine streak tracking, capability tracking, before and after documentation, milestone celebration, learning documentation, and accountability reporting, you create a comprehensive system that makes your progress undeniable and your motivation sustainable. This system transforms the daily hour from a test of willpower into a rewarding journey of continuous improvement that becomes easier and more enjoyable over time. Chapter 9. Scaling your success and evolution. After you've established the daily hour as a consistent habit and begun seeing meaningful results, you reach a critical juncture. This is where most people make one of two mistakes. They either become complacent and stop pushing themselves to grow, or they try to dramatically expand their practice without understanding how to scale effectively. Both approaches undermine the long-term effectiveness of your transformation system. The key to sustainable scaling is understanding that growth happens in phases, and each phase requires a different approach. The strategies that work for building the initial habit are different from the strategies that work for maximizing advanced performance, which are different from the strategies that work for maintaining excellence long-term. The first phase of scaling is what I call depth optimization. This happens after you've maintained your daily hour consistently for at least 90 days and have built basic competence in your chosen focus area. Instead of adding more time or taking on additional goals, you focus on getting dramatically more out of your existing hour. Depth optimization involves increasing the sophistication of your practice. If you've been reading beginner-level material, you transition to intermediate and advanced resources. If you've been working on simple projects, you take on more complex challenges. If you've been practicing basic skills, you start working on advanced techniques and subtle refinements. This phase is crucial because it's where you develop real expertise rather than just basic competence. Most people skip this phase because it's less exciting than taking on new challenges. But it's where the highest returns on your time investment occur. An hour spent mastering advanced techniques in your area of expertise will often produce more value than 10 hours spent developing basic competence in new areas. The second phase is lateral expansion. This involves using your daily hour to develop skills that complement and enhance your primary focus area. If your primary focus has been writing, lateral expansion might involve developing marketing skills to promote your writing, or research skills to improve your content quality, or speaking skills to present your ideas verbally. Lateral expansion works because most real-world success requires the integration of multiple skills rather than just deep expertise in one area. The most successful people are not just experts in their field, they're competent in all the related skills that support and amplify their expertise. The timing of lateral expansion is critical. You should only begin this phase after you've achieved genuine competence in your primary focus area and after your daily hour has become so automatic that it requires minimal willpower to maintain. Expanding too early dilutes your focus and slows your progress in all areas. The third phase is temporal expansion. This is where you add additional focus time beyond your original daily hour, but you do it strategically rather than randomly. Temporal expansion might involve adding a second daily hour focused on a complementary skill, extending your original hour to 90 minutes, or adding intensive weekend sessions for deep project work. The key to successful temporal expansion is maintaining the same level of intentionality and structure that made your original daily hour successful. Each additional time block should have a clear focus, specific outcomes, and the same environmental and accountability structures that support your original practice. You should also be careful to expand your practice in response to genuine opportunity and enthusiasm rather than external pressure or the belief that more is always better. The goal is sustainable long-term growth, not short-term productivity maximization that leads to burnout. The fourth phase is what I call meta-skill development. This involves using your daily hour to develop the underlying capabilities that make you more effective at everything you do. These might include cognitive skills like critical thinking, creativity, and problem-solving, emotional skills like resilience, self-regulation, and empathy, or social skills like communication, influence, and leadership. Meta-skill development is different from domain-specific skill development because the benefits transfer across all areas of your life. When you improve your ability to think clearly, you become better at everything that requires clear thinking. When you develop emotional resilience, you become more effective in any situation that involves stress or setbacks. This phase often emerges naturally after you've achieved significant success in your original focus area and begin to recognize that your further progress is limited more by these underlying capabilities than by domain-specific knowledge or skills. The fifth and final phase is legacy creation. This involves using your daily hour to share your knowledge, mentor others, or create something that will have lasting impact beyond your own personal development. This might involve teaching, writing, creating educational content, or building systems and processes that help others achieve similar transformations. Legacy creation is fulfilling because it allows you to give back and multiply the impact of your own development. It's also beneficial for your continued growth because teaching and mentoring force you to understand your expertise at a deeper level and continue learning to stay ahead of those you're helping. Throughout all phases of scaling, you must maintain what I call core habit protection. This means that no matter how your practice evolves and expands, you never abandon the fundamental structure that made it successful in the first place. Your daily hour remains daily. Your focus remains intentional. Your environment remains optimized. Your tracking remains consistent. Many people undermine their long-term success by getting excited about new approaches and abandoning the boring fundamentals that created their initial progress. The most successful people understand that evolution should be additive, not replacement. You build on what works rather than constantly starting over with new systems. You should also be prepared for what I call plateau periods. These are times when your progress feels slow or stagnant despite consistent effort. Plateaus are not a sign that your system has stopped working. They're a normal part of any long-term development process. They often occur right before major breakthroughs and represent periods when your brain is consolidating previous learning and preparing for the next level of performance. During plateau periods, resist the temptation to dramatically change your approach or add complexity to your practice. Instead, maintain consistency. Focus on refinement rather than addition, and trust that progress is happening even when it's not immediately visible. Plateaus always end, and they're often followed by periods of rapid advancement. The ultimate goal of scaling is not to create a complex, time-consuming practice that dominates your life. It's to create a sustainable system of continuous improvement that becomes so natural and rewarding that it feels effortless. When you scale effectively, your daily hour doesn't feel like work you have to do. It feels like the most valuable and enjoyable part of your day. Chapter 10. Advanced Strategies for Breakthrough Results. Once you've mastered the fundamentals of the daily hour and established consistent progress, you're ready for advanced strategies that can accelerate your results and help you achieve breakthroughs that seemed impossible when you started. These strategies are not for beginners. They require a solid foundation of discipline, focus, and self-awareness. But when applied correctly, they can compress months or years of ordinary progress into weeks of extraordinary advancement. The first advanced strategy is what I call constraint optimization. This involves artificially limiting your resources, time, or options to force creative solutions and accelerated learning. Most people think that having unlimited time and resources leads to better results. But research consistently shows the opposite. Constraints force innovation, focus, and efficiency. For example, if you've been spending your full hour on a project, try limiting yourself to 45 minutes and see how you adapt. If you've been using comprehensive resources, try accomplishing the same goals with half the materials. If you've been working in ideal conditions, try maintaining your performance in challenging environments. Constraint optimization works because it forces you to identify what's truly essential and eliminate everything that's merely convenient. It pushes you to develop more efficient methods, deeper focus, and creative, problem-solving abilities. The skills you develop under constraints make you exponentially more effective when those constraints are removed. The second advanced strategy is intentional failure integration. This involves deliberately putting yourself in situations where failure is likely, not because you want to fail, but because you want to build resilience and learn from failure in a controlled environment. If you're developing presentation skills, this might mean volunteering to speak at challenging venues or on difficult topics. If you're building a business, it might mean testing risky ideas on a small scale. If you're learning a creative skill, it might mean attempting projects that are beyond your current ability level. Intentional failure integration is powerful because most people are so afraid of failure that they never push themselves hard enough to achieve breakthroughs. By building failure into your practice deliberately, you remove the fear and learn to extract value from every setback. You also discover that failure is rarely as catastrophic as you imagined, which frees you to take bigger risks and pursue bigger opportunities. The third advanced strategy is cross-domain application. This involves taking principles, techniques, or insights from completely different fields and applying them to your area of focus. The most innovative breakthroughs often come from combining ideas that have never been combined before. If you're working on business skills, study how athletes train and prepare for competition. If you're developing creative abilities, examine how scientists approach research and experimentation. If you're building technical skills, look at how musicians practice and perform under pressure. Cross-domain application works because different fields have solved different types of problems, and those solutions often transfer in unexpected ways. It also prevents the kind of narrow thinking that comes from only studying within your specific area of interest. The fourth advanced strategy is temporal condensation. This involves taking learning or development processes that normally unfold over months or years and compressing them into intensive, focused periods. This might mean reading 50 books in a month, completing a year-long course in 6 weeks, or practicing a skill for multiple hours per day for a short period. Temporal condensation is effective because it creates momentum and immersion that's impossible to achieve with scattered, long-term approaches. When you compress learning into intensive periods, you maintain concepts in working memory that would normally be forgotten between sessions, allowing you to make connections and achieve insights that wouldn't be possible with slower approaches. However, temporal condensation must be followed by what I call integration periods, where you slow down and allow your brain to process and consolidate what you've learned. The goal is not to maintain intensive pace indefinitely, but to use periods of intensity strategically to accelerate specific aspects of your development. The fifth advanced strategy is expert modeling and reverse engineering. This involves identifying the highest performers in your field and systematically analyzing not just what they do, but how they think, how they prepare, how they handle challenges, and how they continue to improve. This goes beyond reading about successful people or listening to their advice. It involves studying their actual practices, their decision-making processes, their daily routines, and their approaches to learning and development. Whenever possible, it involves direct observation or mentorship. Expert modeling is powerful because it allows you to skip years of trial and error by learning from people who have already solved the problems you're trying to solve. It also exposes you to approaches and standards that you might never have discovered on your own. The sixth advanced strategy is systematic experimentation. This involves treating your daily hour like a laboratory where you constantly test new approaches, measure results, and refine your methods based on data rather than assumptions. Systematic experimentation might involve testing different types of practice schedules, different learning resources, different environmental conditions, or different approaches to the same skill. The key is changing only one variable at a time, measuring the results objectively, and building a personal database of what works best for your specific learning style and circumstances. This strategy prevents you from getting stuck in approaches that worked at one stage of your development, but may not be optimal as you advance. It also helps you discover methods that are uniquely effective for you, even if they're different from conventional wisdom. The seventh and final advanced strategy is peak state engineering. This involves understanding the specific mental, emotional, and physical conditions that allow you to perform at your absolute best, and then systematically creating those conditions during your daily hour. Peak state engineering requires careful self-observation and experimentation. You need to identify the times when you feel most focused, most creative, most energetic, and most capable, and then analyze what factors contributed to those states. This might include specific times of day, certain foods or beverages, particular types of music, specific breathing patterns, or certain mental preparation routines. Once you understand your peak state patterns, you can engineer them deliberately. Instead of waiting for inspiration or optimal conditions to occur naturally, you create them systematically before each daily hour session. Peak state engineering is advanced because it requires significant self-awareness and willingness to experiment with variables that most people never think about consciously. But when mastered, it allows you to perform at your highest level consistently rather than randomly. These advanced strategies should be implemented gradually, one at a time, and only after you've established a solid foundation with the basic daily hour practice. They're tools for acceleration, not replacement, and they work best when combined with the fundamental principles of consistency, focus, and systematic improvement that make the daily hour powerful in the first place. Chapter 11. Real World Implementation and Troubleshooting. The difference between understanding the daily hour concept and actually transforming your life with it comes down to implementation. You can have perfect knowledge of every principle, strategy, and technique, but if you can't navigate the real-world challenges that inevitably arise, that knowledge becomes worthless. This chapter addresses the most common obstacles people encounter when trying to implement the daily hour, and provides practical solutions that work in the messy reality of everyday life. The first major challenge is what I call life disruption chaos. This happens when your normal routine gets completely derailed by unexpected events, travel, illness, family emergencies, or major life changes. Most people use these disruptions as excuses to abandon their daily hour entirely, sometimes for weeks or months at a time. The key to surviving life disruptions is having what I call flexible anchors. These are simplified versions of your daily hour that can be maintained even when everything else in your life is chaotic. Your flexible anchor might be 15 minutes of reading instead of a full hour of study. It might be reviewing audio content during your commute instead of working at your desk. It might be doing mental exercises instead of physical practice when you're sick. The specific content of your flexible anchor matters less than maintaining the daily rhythm. The goal is not to make optimal progress during chaotic periods. It's to prevent the complete breakdown of your habit so that you can return to full practice quickly when stability returns. Another critical strategy for handling disruptions is implementation intentions. These are if-then statements that you prepare in advance for predictable challenges. If I'm traveling, then I'll use audio content and work during my flight. If I'm sick, then I'll do reading or light mental practice instead of intensive work. If I have family visiting, then I'll wake up 30 minutes earlier to protect my hour. By thinking through likely scenarios in advance and creating specific plans for each one, you remove the need to make decisions during stressful moments when your willpower is already compromised. The second major challenge is energy and motivation fluctuation. Even people who successfully establish the daily hour habit find that some days they feel energetic and motivated, while other days they feel tired, resistant. Most people make the mistake of trying to maintain the same intensity regardless of how they feel, which leads to burnout and eventual abandonment of the practice. A better approach is adaptive intensity. This means having different versions of your daily hour that match your current energy and motivation levels. On high-energy days, You tackle your most challenging projects and push your boundaries. On medium energy days, you focus on steady, consistent progress. On low energy days, you do maintenance work, review previous material, or engage in lighter practice. The key is to never skip your hour entirely, but to match the intensity of your practice to your current capacity. This prevents the all-or-nothing thinking that causes people to quit when they can't maintain peak intensity consistently. The third challenge is progress plateau frustration. After the initial excitement of rapid improvement, most people hit periods where progress feels slow or stagnant. During these plateaus, many people conclude that they've reached their limit or that their approach isn't working, and they either quit or constantly change strategies. Plateaus are not problems to be solved. They're natural parts of the learning process that should be expected and embraced. During plateau periods, focus on consistency rather than progress, refinement rather than addition, and process rather than outcomes. Use plateau periods to strengthen your fundamentals. Explore new perspectives on familiar material and build the kind of deep, solid foundation that will support your next level of growth. The fourth challenge is social pressure and criticism. When you commit to a daily hour of focused self-improvement, you're choosing to live differently from most people around you. This often triggers criticism, skepticism, or subtle pressure from friends, family, or colleagues who feel threatened by your commitment to growth. Some people will tell you that you're being obsessive or that you should live a little. Others will predict that you'll burn out or that your approach isn't sustainable. Still others will minimize your progress or suggest that you're wasting your time on unrealistic goals. The key to handling social pressure is understanding that it's usually more about other people's insecurities than about your choices. When people criticize your commitment to self-improvement, they're often defending their own decisions not to prioritize growth. You don't need to argue with these people or convince them that your approach is right. You simply need to stay focused on your own path and let your results speak for themselves. It can also be helpful to find at least one person who supports and understands your commitment to daily improvement. This might be a friend who shares similar goals, an online community of people pursuing personal development, or a mentor who has achieved what you're trying to achieve. Having social support makes it much easier to resist the pressure to conform to mediocrity. The fifth challenge is goal, evolution, and direction changes. As you grow and develop through your daily hour practice, your interests, values, and goals may change. Projects that seemed important when you started may lose their appeal. Skills that seemed crucial may become less relevant. Opportunities you never considered may become attractive. Many people interpret these changes as evidence that their daily hour practice isn't working or that they lack focus and commitment. But goal evolution is actually a sign of growth and expanded awareness. As you develop new capabilities and perspectives, it's natural that your priorities would evolve as well. The key is distinguishing between healthy evolution and scattered inconsistency. Healthy evolution involves completing one major focus area before transitioning to another, or gradually shifting emphasis based on genuine changes in your values and circumstances. Scattered inconsistency involves constantly jumping between different goals without making meaningful progress in any area. A good rule of thumb is to commit to any major focus area for at least 6 months before considering a change. This gives you enough time to push through initial resistance and plateaus to reach the point where you can objectively evaluate your progress and satisfaction. The sixth and final challenge is perfectionism and self-criticism. Many people who commit to the daily hour are high achievers who hold themselves to very high standards. While high standards can be motivating, perfectionism and harsh self-criticism often become obstacles to progress. Perfectionism shows up as spending excessive time planning instead of doing, abandoning projects that aren't turning out perfectly, or being so afraid of making mistakes that you avoid challenging yourself. Self-criticism shows up as harsh internal dialogue when you miss a day, make mistakes, or don't progress as quickly as you hoped. The antidote to perfectionism and self-criticism is what I call compassionate excellence. This means maintaining high standards while treating yourself with the same kindness and understanding you would show a good friend who was working hard to improve. When you make mistakes, view them as information rather than evidence of failure. When you miss a day, focus on getting back on track rather than criticizing yourself for breaking your streak. When progress feels slow, remember that transformation takes time and that consistency matters more than perfection. Implementing the daily hour successfully requires flexibility, self-compassion, and realistic expectations about the challenges you'll face. But when you're prepared for these challenges and have strategies to handle them, the daily hour becomes not just a tool for developing specific skills, but a practice that builds resilience, adaptability, and confidence that serve you in every area of your life. Chapter 12. Multiplying your impact across life areas. Once you've mastered the daily hour in one area of your life and have experienced the power of consistent, focused improvement, a natural question arises. How do you expand this impact to transform multiple areas of your life without diluting your focus or overwhelming yourself? The answer lies in understanding how different areas of your life are interconnected and how improvements in one area create ripple effects that enhance everything else. The first principle of multiplying your impact is what I call foundational hierarchy. Not all areas of your life are equally foundational. Some areas, when improved, automatically enhance multiple other areas. Other areas are important, but have limited spillover effects. Understanding this hierarchy allows you to choose daily hour focuses that create maximum leverage across your entire life. Health and energy form the foundation of everything else. When you have abundant physical energy, you perform better at work. You're more patient with your family. You think more clearly, and you're more resilient in the face of challenges. A daily hour focused on fitness, nutrition, or stress management doesn't just improve your health, it improves your capacity for everything else you want to accomplish. Mental and emotional skills form the second level of the hierarchy. Your ability to focus, think critically, manage stress, and regulate your emotions affects your performance in every context. A daily hour focused on developing these capabilities pays dividends in your career, relationships, parenting, and personal projects. Communication and relationship skills form the third level. Whether you're trying to advance in your career, build a business, maintain a marriage, or raise children, your ability to connect with people, influence others, and navigate social dynamics is crucial. Improving these skills enhances your effectiveness in almost every area of your life. Domain-specific skills form the top level of the hierarchy. These are skills that primarily benefit one area of your life, like technical job skills, hobby-related abilities, or specialized knowledge. While these skills are important for achieving specific goals, they have limited impact on other areas of your life. The key insight is that focusing your daily hour on foundational skills creates much broader impact than focusing on domain-specific skills. An hour spent developing emotional intelligence will improve your performance as a parent, spouse, leader, and friend. An hour spent learning a new software program will primarily improve your performance in situations where that software is relevant. The second principle is skill stacking synergy. This involves deliberately developing skills that complement and amplify each other, creating capabilities that are greater than the sum of their parts. The most successful people don't just have deep expertise in one area. They have combinations of skills that create unique value propositions. For example, combining writing skills with marketing knowledge creates the ability to create compelling content that actually reaches and influences people. Combining technical expertise with communication skills creates the ability to translate complex ideas for general audiences. Combining business knowledge with psychological understanding creates the ability to build products and services that meet deep human needs. When you're choosing focuses for your daily hour, consider not just what skills you want to develop individually, but what combinations of skills would create unique value in your career or personal life. This long-term thinking helps you build complementary capabilities that multiply each other's impact. The third principle is sequential mastery. Rather than trying to improve multiple areas simultaneously, you focus intensively on one area until you reach a level of competence that can be maintained with minimal ongoing effort. Then add a new focus while maintaining the first. Sequential mastery works because it allows you to achieve genuine breakthroughs in each area, rather than making slow progress in multiple areas. It also builds confidence and momentum that carry over to new challenges. When you prove to yourself that you can master one challenging area, you develop the confidence and skill to master others. A typical sequential mastery progression might look like this. Spend 6 months developing physical fitness until exercise becomes an automatic habit that requires minimal willpower to maintain. Then add a financial education focus while maintaining your fitness routine. After mastering basic financial skills, add a communication skills focus while maintaining both fitness and financial habits. The fourth principle is integration and systems thinking. This involves looking for opportunities to combine multiple areas of development within your daily hour, or to design your daily hour in ways that support improvements in areas you're not directly working on. For example, if you're focused on business skills but also want to improve your fitness, you might take walking meetings, use a standing desk during your daily hour, or incorporate physical movement breaks into your study sessions. If you're focused on learning a language but also want to improve your cultural awareness, you might consume content about the history and culture of countries where that language is spoken. Integration also involves designing your broader daily routine to support the changes you're making during your daily hour. If you're using your hour to develop better stress management skills, you might also adjust your sleep schedule, nutrition, and work environment to reduce stress throughout the day. The fifth principle is modeling and teaching. One of the most powerful ways to multiply the impact of your daily hour is to share what you're learning with others. Teaching forces you to understand material more deeply creates accountability for your own practice, and extends the benefits of your development to people around you. This doesn't require formal teaching roles. You might share insights with your family during dinner conversations, mentor a colleague who's interested in similar goals, write about your experiences on social media, or simply model the behaviors and attitudes you're developing for people who observe your life. When you become someone who consistently invests in personal growth and shares that journey with others, you influence the people around you to take their own development more seriously. This creates an environment where growth and improvement are valued and supported, making it easier for you to maintain your own practice. The sixth principle is compound interest thinking. Just as financial investments create compound returns over time, personal development investments create compound returns across different areas of your life. The key is to think long-term and trust that investments you make today will pay dividends in ways you can't predict. The communication skills you develop today might lead to a promotion 3 years from now. The stress management techniques you learn might prevent a health crisis 5 years from now. The financial knowledge you gain might enable you to retire early or support your children's education. The physical fitness you build might give you energy and confidence that transforms your relationships. This long-term perspective helps you stay motivated during periods when progress feels slow and helps you make decisions based on long-term impact rather than short-term convenience. Multiplying your impact across multiple life areas requires patience, strategic thinking, and trust in the process of compound growth. But when you apply these principles consistently, your daily hour becomes not just a tool for developing specific skills, but a catalyst for transformation that touches every aspect of your life. You become someone who continuously grows, adapts, and improves, and that identity creates opportunities and possibilities that weren't available to the person you were before you started this journey. Chapter 13. Creating Lasting Transformation Beyond Skills. While developing specific skills and achieving particular goals are important outcomes of the daily hour practice, the deepest and most lasting transformation happens at the level of identity. When you consistently dedicate an hour each day to purposeful improvement, you don't just become someone who has certain skills. You become someone who grows, someone who commits, someone who follows through on important goals despite challenges and setbacks. This identity transformation is what separates people who experience temporary improvement from those who experience lasting change. Skills can be forgotten if not used. Knowledge can become outdated. But when you transform your identity, you create a foundation for lifelong growth that adapts to changing circumstances and continues generating new capabilities throughout your life. The first aspect of identity transformation is developing what I call growth orientation. This is a fundamental shift from seeing yourself as someone with fixed capabilities to seeing yourself as someone who continuously expands their capabilities. Most people operate from a fixed mindset, believing that their intelligence, talents, and abilities are largely predetermined and unchangeable. When you commit to the daily hour and begin seeing concrete evidence that you can develop new skills and improve existing ones, this fixed mindset begins to crack. You start to see challenges as opportunities to grow rather than threats to your ego. You become more willing to take on difficult projects because you trust your ability to develop whatever capabilities you need. You become less threatened by criticism because you view it as information that can help you improve. This growth orientation affects every area of your life. You become more willing to apply for stretch positions at work because you trust your ability to learn what you need to succeed. You become more willing to have difficult conversations in relationships because you believe you can develop better communication skills. You become more optimistic about the future because you know you can adapt to whatever changes come. The second aspect is developing process confidence. This is the deep trust that consistent, focused effort inevitably produces results, even when progress isn't immediately visible. Most people lack process confidence, which is why they abandon goals when they don't see quick results or when they encounter obstacles. When you practice the daily hour consistently and see how small daily actions compound into significant results over time, you develop unshakable faith in the process of improvement. You become someone who can delay gratification because you trust that current sacrifices will pay off in the future. You become more persistent in the face of setbacks because you know that consistency ultimately wins. Process confidence is one of the most valuable psychological assets you can develop because it enables you to pursue ambitious long-term goals that most people abandon due to impatience or discouragement. The third aspect is developing self-efficacy. This is the belief that you have the power to influence the outcomes in your life through your choices and actions. Many people feel like victims of their circumstances, believing that their success or failure is largely determined by factors outside their control. The daily hour practice directly contradicts this helpless mindset by providing daily evidence that your choices matter and that you can create positive change through deliberate action. Every day that you choose productive action over passive consumption, every skill you develop, every goal you achieve through consistent effort proves that you have more control over your life than you previously believed. This enhanced self-efficacy makes you more proactive in all areas of your life. Instead of waiting for opportunities to come to you, you create opportunities. Instead of hoping that problems will resolve themselves, you take action to solve them. Instead of accepting unsatisfying situations, you work to improve them. The fourth aspect is developing future focus. This is the ability to make decisions based on long-term consequences rather than immediate impulses. Most people are dominated by short-term thinking, choosing immediate pleasure over delayed benefits, immediate comfort over long-term growth. The daily hour requires you to consistently choose long-term benefit over immediate convenience. Every day, you choose to invest time in skills that will pay off months or years in the future, rather than consuming entertainment that provides immediate gratification. This daily practice of delayed gratification strengthens your ability to make future-focused decisions in all areas of your life. You become someone who invests money instead of spending it on impulse purchases. You become someone who exercises regularly despite not seeing immediate results. You become someone who builds relationships through consistent effort rather than expecting instant connections. The fifth aspect is developing internal validation. This is the ability to measure your worth and progress based on your own standards and values, rather than external approval or comparison to others. Many people are trapped in cycles of seeking validation from others, which makes them vulnerable to manipulation and prevents them from pursuing goals that matter to them personally. When you commit to the daily hour regardless of whether others understand or approve, when you celebrate progress that only you can see, when you persist through challenges that others would use as excuses to quit, you develop strong internal validation. You become someone who acts based on your own values, rather than other people's expectations. This internal validation makes you more authentic in relationships, more confident in pursuing unconventional goals, and more resistant to peer pressure or social manipulation. The sixth and final aspect is developing resilience and anti-fragility. This is the ability not just to recover from setbacks and challenges, but to actually become stronger as a result of them. Most people are fragile, meaning that stress and adversity weaken them and set them back. The daily hour practice builds resilience by constantly challenging you to persist through difficulty. Every day that you maintain your practice despite not feeling motivated, every obstacle you overcome, every plateau you push through, builds your capacity to handle future challenges. But more than just building resilience, the daily hour can build what Nassim Taleb calls anti-fragility, the quality of becoming stronger under stress. When you consistently use challenges as opportunities to develop new capabilities, when you view setbacks as information that helps you improve your approach, when you emerge from difficult periods more capable than you were before, you become anti-fragile. This transformation from fragile to resilient to anti-fragile is perhaps the most valuable outcome of the daily hour practice, because it ensures that you continue growing regardless of what life throws at you. These identity transformations happen gradually and often below the level of conscious awareness. You don't wake up one day and suddenly have a growth mindset or internal validation. Instead, these qualities develop slowly through consistent practice, daily choices, and accumulated evidence that you are indeed someone who grows, commits, and follows through. The beautiful thing about identity transformation is that once it occurs, it becomes self-reinforcing. When you see yourself as someone who grows, you naturally seek out growth opportunities. When you trust the process, you naturally persist through difficulties. When you believe in your ability to influence outcomes, you naturally take more responsibility for your results. This is why the daily hour, when practiced consistently over time, doesn't just change what you can do. It changes who you are. And when you change who you are, you change what's possible in every area of your life. Chapter 14. Becoming the person others look up to. One of the most profound but unexpected consequences of maintaining a daily hour practice is how it changes the way other people see you and relate to you. When you consistently demonstrate the discipline to improve yourself, when you develop capabilities that most people only dream about, when you achieve goals that others consider impossible, you naturally become someone that others look to for guidance, inspiration, and leadership. This transformation from follower to leader, from someone who seeks advice to someone who gives it, from someone who admires others' success to someone whose success others admire, is not something you can force or fake. It emerges naturally as a result of the person you become through consistent daily practice. The first way this leadership naturally develops is through what I call demonstration leadership. This is leadership through example rather than words. When people see you consistently choosing growth over comfort, progress over entertainment, discipline over impulse, they begin to question their own choices and consider whether they might want to make similar changes. You don't need to preach or lecture or try to convince anyone to follow your example. In fact, trying to convince others often creates resistance and resentment. Instead, you simply live according to your values and let the results speak for themselves. When people see the positive changes in your capabilities, your confidence, your opportunities, and your overall life satisfaction. Many will naturally want to understand how you achieved those changes. This demonstration leadership is particularly powerful because it's authentic and non-threatening. You're not telling people what they should do. You're simply showing them what's possible when someone commits to consistent daily improvement. The second way leadership develops is through competence attraction. As you develop genuine expertise in areas that matter to you, people who are interested in those same areas naturally gravitate toward you for advice, collaboration, and mentorship. This isn't because you're trying to position yourself as an expert, but because you actually have developed real competence through consistent practice. Whether your daily hour has been focused on business skills, health and fitness, creative abilities, or personal development, the expertise you develop becomes visible to others who are working in the same areas or who aspire to develop similar capabilities. They seek you out because you have something valuable to offer, not because you're promoting yourself as a guru or expert. This competence-based leadership is sustainable and fulfilling because it's based on genuine value creation rather than marketing or positioning. You help others because you actually have knowledge and skills that can benefit them, and they seek your help because they recognize your authentic expertise. The third way leadership develops is through resilience modeling. As you practice the daily hour consistently over time, you inevitably encounter setbacks, obstacles, and challenges. How you handle these difficulties teaches others about resilience, persistence, and problem-solving. People observe how you maintain your practice during busy periods, how you adapt when circumstances change, how you recover from failures and mistakes. This resilience modeling is especially valuable because most people lack examples of how to persist through difficulty in pursuit of long-term goals. They see successful people's end results, but not the process of overcoming obstacles. When you demonstrate that it's possible to maintain commitment despite challenges, you give others a blueprint for their own persistence. The fourth way leadership develops is through possibility expansion. Your achievements through the daily hour practice expand other people's sense of what's possible for them. When someone who started from a similar background or with similar constraints achieves something significant through consistent daily practice, it forces others to reconsider their own limitations and excuses. This possibility expansion is often more powerful than any motivational speech or success story because it's happening in real time with someone they know personally. It's harder to dismiss or rationalize away when they can see the entire process unfold over months and years. The fifth way leadership develops is through wisdom accumulation. The daily hour practice doesn't just develop specific skills, it develops wisdom about learning, growth, persistence, and achievement. You learn what works and what doesn't, what mistakes to avoid, what strategies accelerate progress, and what mindsets support long-term success. This accumulated wisdom becomes valuable to others who are beginning their own improvement journeys. You can help them avoid common pitfalls, choose effective strategies, and maintain motivation during difficult periods. This wisdom-based mentorship is deeply satisfying because you're helping others succeed based on lessons you've learned through your own experience. The sixth and final way leadership develops is through community building. As you become known for your commitment to growth and your willingness to help others, you naturally attract other people who share similar values and aspirations. You become a catalyst for building communities of people who support each other's development. This might happen formally through organizing groups, workshops, or online communities. Or it might happen informally through the relationships you build with other growth-oriented people. Either way, you become someone who brings together people who want to improve themselves and helps create environments where mutual support and accountability flourish. This community-building leadership is particularly powerful because it creates networks of people who reinforce each other's commitment to growth, making it easier for everyone to maintain their improvement practices and achieve their goals. It's important to understand that this evolution into leadership happens gradually and naturally. You don't need to set out with the goal of becoming a leader or influencer. You don't need to create content, build a platform, or promote yourself. The leadership emerges as a natural consequence of the person you become through consistent daily practice. In fact, trying to position yourself as a leader before you've done the work often backfires because it comes across as inauthentic and self-serving. Real leadership in the area of personal development comes from genuine competence, authentic experience, and a sincere desire to help others succeed. When you focus on your own growth and development first, when you achieve real results through consistent effort, when you handle challenges with grace and persistence, the leadership naturally follows. People recognize authenticity and competence, and they're naturally drawn to individuals who embody the qualities they want to develop in themselves. This transformation from someone who follows others to someone others follow is one of the most rewarding aspects of the daily hour practice. It represents not just personal success, but the opportunity to positively influence others and contribute to their growth and success as well. Chapter 15. Your new life starts now. You now understand everything you need to know to transform your life through the power of one focused hour per day. You know how to choose the right focus, how to structure your hour for maximum effectiveness, how to overcome resistance and obstacles, how to track progress and stay motivated, and how to scale your success across multiple areas of your life. You understand the science behind why this approach works and the psychology of how to make it sustainable. But understanding is not transformation. Knowledge is not change. The gap between knowing what to do and actually doing it is where most people get stuck. They consume information, they make plans, they set intentions, but they never bridge the gap between knowledge and action. They never actually start. This is the moment of truth. This is where you decide whether you're going to be one of the people who learns about transformation or one of the people who actually experiences it. This is where you choose between the life you're currently living and the life you could be living 1 year from now. Let me paint two pictures for you. The first picture is your life. If you do nothing with what you've learned, you go back to your normal routine. You continue consuming content about self-improvement, but never actually improving. You keep hoping that someday you'll have more time, more energy, more motivation to work on your goals. You remain essentially the same person you are today, dealing with the same frustrations, limitations, and missed opportunities. In this scenario, 1 year from now, you're still thinking about the changes you want to make. You're still planning to start tomorrow, next week, next month. You're still envious of people who seem to have their lives together, who are achieving their goals, who are becoming the people they want to be. The gap between where you are and where you want to be has grown larger, not smaller. The second picture is your life if you commit to the daily hour starting today. In this scenario, you make a decision that changes everything. You choose one area of your life that's most important to transform, and you dedicate 1 hour every single day to improving in that area. You face the same obstacles and challenges as everyone else, but you persist through them because you're committed to the process, not just the outcomes. 3 months from now, you've established an unbreakable habit. The daily hour has become as automatic as brushing your teeth. You've made noticeable progress in your chosen area, and people are starting to comment on the changes they see in you. More importantly, you've proven to yourself that you're the type of person who follows through on commitments to yourself. 6 months from now, the progress is undeniable. You've developed real competence in your focus area. You're more confident, more capable, more disciplined than you were when you started. You've started to see opportunities that weren't visible before because you've developed the skills to recognize and capitalize on them. You've become someone who invests in yourself rather than just consuming entertainment. 1 year from now, you're a different person. The hour you invested each day has compounded into transformation that touches every area of your life. You've achieved goals that seemed impossible when you started. You've developed capabilities that you thought were beyond your reach. Most importantly, you've become someone who grows consistently, who adapts to challenges, who creates opportunities rather than waiting for them. The difference between these two scenarios is not talent, luck, or circumstances. The difference is the decision you make in this moment about how you're going to use the next hour of your life, and the hour after that, and the hour after that. Here's what I want you to do right now, before you do anything else. Choose your focus. Don't spend weeks researching options or planning the perfect approach. Look at your life and identify the one area where improvement would have the biggest impact on everything else. Maybe it's your health, your financial situation, your career skills, your relationships, or your emotional well-being. Choose one area and commit to it. Next, schedule your first hour. Look at your calendar and block out 60 minutes in the next 24 hours that you will dedicate to working on your chosen area. Treat this appointment like the most important meeting of your day, because it is. It's a meeting with your future self, and the outcome of this meeting will determine whether that future self is proud of the choices you made today. Then, eliminate the obstacles. Remove the distractions. Gather the materials you need, and create an environment that supports focused work. Remember, the hour isn't just about the work you do during those 60 minutes. It's about training yourself to prioritize what's important over what's urgent, to choose growth over comfort, to invest in your future rather than just consuming your present. Finally, begin. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Don't spend more time planning. Don't tell yourself you'll start fresh on Monday. The most important hour is the first hour, and the best time to start is now. As you begin this practice, remember that transformation is not about perfection, it's about consistency. You will miss days. You will make mistakes. You will have moments when you question whether this is worth the effort. This is all normal and expected. What matters is that you return to the practice, that you learn from setbacks rather than being defeated by them, that you stay committed to the process even when progress feels slow. Remember also that you're not just changing what you can do, you're changing who you are. Every day that you honor your commitment to yourself, you're becoming someone who keeps promises. Every hour you invest in growth, you're becoming someone who values long-term benefit over short-term pleasure. Every challenge you persist through, you're becoming someone who doesn't give up when things get difficult. These identity changes are more valuable than any specific skill you develop because they ensure that you continue growing throughout your life. When you become someone who commits, grows, and persists, you become unstoppable. The hour you're about to begin is not just 1 hour. It's the first hour of a new life, the first step in a journey that will take you places you never thought possible. It's the moment when you stop being someone who dreams about change and become someone who creates change. Your new life doesn't start tomorrow, next week, or next month. Your new life starts with the next hour you choose to invest in becoming the person you want to be. And that hour can begin right now. The question is not whether you have the time, the energy, or the motivation. The question is whether you have the courage to choose growth over comfort, progress over entertainment, investment over consumption. The question is whether you're ready to stop being someone who learns about transformation and become someone who lives it. The choice is yours. But know this: every moment you delay is a moment that could have been invested in building the life you actually want to live. Your future self is waiting for you to make the decision that changes everything. Make that decision now. Start your hour now. Begin your transformation now. Your new life is waiting.